What's up, y'all? It's Boone. As you guys know, I run an event space business, and we're actually inside one of our rooms inside our event space. But today, I'm not talking about event space. What I'm talking about today is how to actually utilize credit cards to buy property. And the reason why I wanted to take the time to make this video is because we hear this all the time on Instagram. I use my credit card to buy this house. Use my credit card to buy this car. Use my credit card to do this. I use my credit card to do this. All these different things utilizing credit cards, but nobody ever actually takes the time to explain it because we only got 60 to 90 seconds on Instagram, and a lot of people really don't know what they're talking about. So I wanted to take this time to make this video to explain how we exactly buy properties utilizing credit cards. As you guys know, I'm a real estate guy. I bought a whole bunch of houses, and a lot of these houses I utilize credit cards to do so. So I definitely know what I'm talking about. So we're gonna make this video, and I'm gonna show you guys how to use credit cards to buy houses. All right. That's the whole point of this today's video. So, right, what happens is it's not the fact that we're actually swiping the credit card like we're at Target. We're liquidating the card. We are liquidating the card and then moving that money from the credit card into our checking account, and then we use the money from our checking account to cover the property, the cost of the property. But the other piece is what we do is we mix funding together. So let me break this down to you guys for 1 second, right? So everybody got that, the credit cards, using that to buy houses. So let me make some space on this board. I really should have did this video at my house with my vibe board and it was all big. I may redo it one day. But so what happens is we mix funding. So you got big funding, and then you got smaller funding. You got big funding, you got smaller funding. So big funding is banks, hard money, things like that. So what we do is we allow the banks to cover the bigger portion of the property, and then the smaller funding, like credit cards, for the sake of this conversation, credit cards to cover the smaller portion. So what happens is when you work with hard money lenders or banks, usually they'll cover 80 to 90% of whatever the house costs. So let's say for the sake of this conversation, we're buying this house that costs $100,000, $100K, right? We're buying this house that costs $100,000. So what happens is when you work with a hard money lender or a bank, any type of big financing, they're going to cover 80%, which in this case, 80%, AKA $80,000. They're covering $80,000. So what that means is our down payment is now $20,000. So what a down payment is the money that is left over that the lender is not covering. So if you're buying a house for $100,000 and the lender is covering 90%, that means they're covering $90,000. If you work with a lender that's covering 70% of the purchase price, that means they're covering $70,000 if the house costs $100,000. So what's left over is your required down payment. So in this example, our required down payment is 20% because we got to make a whole 100. 80% is the bigger funding, 20% is the smaller funding, which is AKA 20K, right? Which is $20,000. So now our job is to get, and this is what we utilize when we mix the funding, when we blend the funding. A lot of people, if you're buying houses, now you're buying a house that's $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. Yes, you can just go ahead and utilize a credit card to buy it. You don't have to go ahead and get big funding. But a lot of people don't have $100,000 credit cards. There are credit cards out there like Chase that offer $100,000 limits, but the average person does not have access to that kind of line, though that kind of credit. So that's why we actually mix big funding with the smaller funding. And when people say, I bought this house with a credit card, it doesn't mean they bought the whole house with the credit card. They might have used their credit card to cover the down payment. So this is something I want you guys to understand. So when you're watching these things on Instagram or other YouTube videos, you're not like, how the hell are they doing this? This is how they're doing it. Big funding covers 80%, 90%, or 70%, and then a smaller funding covers the other 30, 20, or 10%. Got it? Our job now is to figure out where we're going to get our 20K from. So you can go to, let's say, bank like Chase. Chase pulls from Experian. You go to banks like KeyBank. They pull from Equifax. You go to banks like Truist. They pull from Equifax. Alliance Credit Union. They pull from Experian. And then sometimes TransUnion. Majority I had TransUnion. Somebody told me they pull from, when I use them, they pull from Experian, and a lot of other people, they pull from Experian. But I had a couple people that said TransUnion. Whether they was telling the truth or not, I don't know. But me personally, they pull from Experian. So these are a couple banks that you can utilize. So, right, you can apply. And these are all banks that allow you to use business credit. So that means you can apply to all of these online. With banks like Chase, KeyBank, Truist, it's best that you open up an account and apply in person and build that relationship. But for the sake of conversation, you can apply to all of these online without having a bank account with them. You can 100% do that, but to get bigger lines. So when you ever hear somebody say, yo, I only got $10,000 from Chase, how you get $50,000? It's because they actually built a relationship. They might have opened up a bank account. They might have went through an actual bank rep. That way their reach went a lot further than you. But like I said, these are all you can apply directly online. I applied to all of these online. Well, KeyBank, I actually went in person. But these are all banks that you can apply and actually get approved for credit cards. And actually you may be able to get a line of credit from them, but these are definitely banks that you can get lines of credit from, and these are where they pull from. So our job is to go ahead and get access to credit from them to cover our down payment. So let's say you apply on Chase online. You apply for the Chase Inc. card, and you get $10K from them. Let's say you apply to KeyBank. Let's say you get a $20K from them. Let's say you apply for Truist. You get a $20K from them. And you apply to Alliance. You get a $10K from them. So now what happens is, right, you got a 10, you got a 20, that's 30. 30 and 20, that's 50. 50 and 10, that's 60. So now you have $60,000 available credit that you have. So now what our job is to do is figure out how to get the $60,000 off the credit card. Well, in this case, we only need $20,000. Get the $20,000 off the credit card to cover the down payment. So there's a couple different things that you guys can do to go ahead and cover the down payment. So, right, one of the things that you guys can do, and I'm trying to figure out what exactly do I want to erase, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a hot 5 seconds to screenshot this, to write this down, whatever, because I'm about to erase this top piece. I'm about to erase this top piece. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, you guys got it. And you can always rewind. So now our job is to liquidate the cards. So there's a couple different ways you guys can liquidate, right? One of the ways that you guys can liquidate, that I like to liquidate, is I work with, but you have to be in this type of room, in these type of environments. I know a lot of other business owners. I know a hell of a lot of business owners. I know a hell of a lot of business owners that actually making money. And I know some that's, making a little bit of money, but I know other business owners. So what me and my business owner friends do, we send each other invoices. So let's say, for example, this is me. This is Boone, right? And I call my friend Bob. And I say, hey, Bob, I need $20K. And Bob says, okay, I'm going to send you an invoice. Bob's going to send me an invoice for $20K, or Bob's going to send me an invoice for 10 and 10, right? So what I recommend doing is, and I'm going to break this down, don't do the whole lump sum, maybe break it down in 2 payments of 10, and I'm going to explain why. So what happens is Bob sends me an invoice of 10 and 10, 2 invoices for 10K. I utilize one of these credit cards or different credit cards, and I go ahead and pay. Let's say I use 10 from KeyBank, and I use 10 from Truist, or however I want to do it, 5 and 5, however I want to go and do it, and I pay the invoice. So I pay the invoice, and now Bob has $20K in his pocket from me paying the invoices. Subtracting fees, they might take 2.9%. So you have to understand that's a part of the game. So now what happens in 48 hours or 72 hours, that money is going to clear and be inside his bank account. Now what Bob is going to do is take that remaining money minus the fees. So let's say $19,000 or some change, and he's going to send it back to me, and he's going to issue this as he's issuing a refund. Hey, look, no longer wanting services, whatever the case may be, and issue it back to me. So now I just liquidated my credit cards. Now I have $20,000 back in my checking account from him issuing a refund and sending it back to me. So this is one of the ways, and this is called the invoice play. Now let me give you the pros and cons to this. The pros is you're able to liquidate the money. You're able to go ahead, and it looks like you're getting some spend. because now you're utilizing the credit card to pay for stuff. So now you're getting spent, might be getting points, different things like that. So that's the pro and pro regarding that. The cons are that if you're doing this with someone that isn't used to making money on their business merchant account, that their merchant account may freeze their account because this is the first time they ever got a $10,000, $20,000 payment, and it may look suspicious, and a merchant account may freeze, which is like Apple, PayPal, Stripe. Their merchant account may actually freeze and hold that money for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, maybe even 6 months, maybe even a year. So the way around it is you want to really vet your person. Hey, how much money are you, if you can answer this, how much money are you bringing through your merchant account, your Stripe, your QuickBooks, your PayPal? How much money? And if they're using PayPal, I just say don't do it. PayPal will hold money in a heartbeat. I just recommend don't. If they say they use PayPal, just say, sorry, I'm going to find somebody else. That's my personal opinion. PayPal will hold money for a long time. PayPal held my money for a long time. So I actually got my money just released from PayPal a month ago, about a month and a half ago. So if they actually are having 10, 20, 30, 40, 50K months and spend is going through their account, then I say, okay, it's safe to go ahead and use them as their invoice partner because they actually have to spend. But if they had their business for 2 years and the most money they made in 2 years in their business is 20K, it's a possibility that they're going to get shut down. It's going to freeze their account. And they'll remember, that's not their money they're freezing. It's your money you're freezing. So you want to make sure you're working with somebody that actually has a business and their business has some spends. That's the cons of the invoice play. So that's one of the things that you guys want to keep in mind. And the biggest question that I get, can I invoice myself? If you do this, I would try with smaller payments, 3K, 5K, smaller payment. I wouldn't invoice myself 20K because it can look suspicious, especially if names match up. Like let's say my name is Derek Boone. If I say Derek Boone wants to pay an invoice to Boone LLC, it looks a little suspicious. So you really want to be careful with that. So I would test it with smaller payments, a 3K, 2K, 5K, and different things like that. So now the other play that you guys can go ahead and do is see if the bank allows a balance transfer. Sometimes credit unions offer this. Like one of the credit unions that I like is Freedom Credit Union. And what they do, they allow a balance transfer. So basically what that means is I can open my mobile app and then I have checking account, savings account, money market, credit card, the Visa credit card. And what it allows me to do is actually transfer money from my credit card and move it to my checking account. Like I literally can go ahead and transfer 20 to 30K and move it directly from the credit card directly over to the checking account. So these are some of the things that you can do. And this is called a balance transfer. Not every bank does this. So you want to ask, do they do this? How many times a month do they allow you to do this? And if there's a fee to do this. I like Freedom Credit Union because they allow you to do it multiple times and they're not charging any fees. So that's the key. You want to make sure that the transition you're doing with the money isn't hurting you too much to where it's not making sense. Where they charge you a crazy fee or all this interest, make sure that it makes sense before you actually do this. So when you actually put the whole play together, when you look at the bottom number, you're like, yo, this was worth it. Or you might look at it like, yo, this costs more than was worth doing. So these are two ways you can do it. The invoice play, or you can do the utilize the balance transfer play. And also too, so when you're buying a house, you're utilizing a closing attorney or you may be using a title company. Not every title company does this. I'm talking about literally is one in Philadelphia that I know that does this. And what they do is they'll allow you to go ahead and pay your closing costs with the credit card at closing. Now, this is something they might not allow everybody to do, but this is something that can be done. But you want to ask, do you guys offer credit card payments, to cover down payments? So these are some of the things that you want to ask, and these are some of the things you want to do. But there's multiple ways to liquidate a credit card. You got websites like Plastique, where you can go ahead and utilize that website. And I'm going to drop it right here. Plastique is a website that you guys can utilize to liquidate a credit card. So there's multiple different websites, which is not the main thing I want you guys to understand. I want you guys to understand really much the concept of how we actually utilize a credit card to buy a house. If the house is 20, 30, 40K, then we can go and utilize a credit card to buy it. But if it's $100,000, $200,000 house, we're getting bigger funding to cover 70, 80 to 90% of the purchase price. And then we're utilizing credit cards like these, for example, to cover the 10, the 20, the 30% down payment. And now we bought our property using 100% of other people's money. We use big brother financing and we use little brother financing, and there were no money out of pocket for this deal. So if you like this video, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Check out all the other videos. I'm only doing this to give game and help you guys learn information that is a little different from Instagram. I post a lot of videos on Instagram, but they're only 30, 60, 90-second videos. I can't really go in deep depth. So I really only created YouTube because I like helping people. I like teaching people. I like explaining. I can't really explain that much on Instagram. So that's why I go ahead and do these videos so I can really explain and make sure you guys actually understand and make sure you guys get the information. So look, make sure you guys check out these banks. Make sure you guys check out these plays, and make sure you check out the other videos that I have on my YouTube channel. Let's get it.